In order to issue options to somebody, you need to answer all of these. So you need to enter their name. I'm going to create my normal format generic name. So I won't put my national insurance number in actually. I'm going to say I am issuing 5 options, and I'm going to pretend our actual market value, our AMV was £1, and our restricted market value was say £1.50. The hard part, honestly, here is deciding what vesting and exercise you want here. And this is where it gets complex. On the bright side, we do have an article. So if you click here, there's a really useful article which pops up and tells you all about the types of options you can have and the granting and things like that. However, let me quickly rattle through because that's the point of this session here. The first thing to introduce is there are 2 steps really if you think about the life cycle of an option. So firstly, your unallocated option pool is created. That's where all the lovely potential options sit. When you issue an option, then it is called granted. So you go from unallocated option pool, you grant some options. At some point, those options become vestable and they are vested. And vested means that they've earned the option, if you like. At some point, you go from vesting to exercise. And exercise means that that person has paid the money for the options and it turns the options into equity. So it's only when they actually exercise the options they turn into equity. Why is it so complicated? Well, it allows you to do lots of interesting things where you've got this kind of multi-stage process. So you may want people's options to vest, for example, in a specific way. So you may say to people, you can vest everybody's, let's rattle through what they are. You can say, well, we're going to vest all of the options, all of your 5 options, that's very generous, on a specific day. Or you might say, we're going to vest the options over a 3-year period or a 36-month period with a 1-year cliff. That is a choice. Or you may say it's on an anniversary. Or you may say it's on a specific condition. And this is where you would say, if you're incentivizing a salesperson, I would say to one of my salespeople, when you've done an intro call and your customer has bought a product in less than 6 minutes, then you're going to get all 5 of your options. You could say something like that. Or you may say to your CTO, great, when you release version 2 of our platform, you're going to get another, your options vest on that day, or whatever it happens to be. So it's called conditional equity. You can put anything you like in here, but make sure it's specific and measurable, and it's not ambiguous. You don't want the option to be any debate around it. Or finally, you may say that the options only vest on exit only. And that effectively means the only time that person ever holds shares is the millisecond on an exit. And what would typically happen there is that on an exit, so you sell your business, something happens called a cashless transaction, where because it's an exit event, the person's options would vest and exercise in the same millisecond. And in the same millisecond again, the new equity that they held for that millisecond would be acquired by the acquirer. So whoever's buying your business, you would convert the options and the person buying your business would buy the equity in very, very short order. What that means is your employee or whoever owns the option isn't having to pay the exercise price. One of the things that people don't think about when shares go from vested to exercisable and your option holder actually exercises them, whatever the price here is, whatever the exercise price, your option holder has to actually pay that. Now, in this case, it's £5, so I've sure got the money behind a sofa somewhere. If your business already has some value and it's got a 10 million valuation, people could be looking, in order to exercise their options, they could have to find 30, 50, £100,000 or whatever. So it does get really painful for the option holder to actually find the cash at the point of exercise. Hence why when shares are exercisable, they may not choose to exercise them. But they may be like, well, I know the options are in the bag, but I don't actually want to pay £50,000 for the options. So those are the different choices on the platform. Really straightforward. For virtually all of these, other than the vesting only on an exit where it doesn't make any sense, all of these have the choice to allow an exercise only on the exit. So this is actually the vesting condition. And then if I tick this, the shares will only be exercisable on an exit. Otherwise, if you don't tick this, then the options are exercisable as soon as the options have vested. So let's put some tests in here. And this is what we're going to do. We'll say only allow exercise on an exit. What the platform's done now, it's giving you an example here. So it's an EMI option. There are 5 to be granted, 5 of which remain. None are vested, none are exercised, none are lapsed. Lapsed means if somebody's got exit only options and they leave you, you would move them to lapsed, and that means effectively those options go back to the option pool. We're not going to cover that today. You can see here we're ready to build documents. So we're going to go ahead and create the documents. I can still go in and change it. So if I decide, well, actually, I want them to get 6, I can go in here and amend that to 6 or whatever, but we won't do that. And you can see in the intelligent data room, this is the first time we've been in the data room today, actually. So if you've not seen a funding round or whatever in Founder Catalyst, this is where all the interesting stuff sit. You've got within here, you've got all of the details from each of your funding rounds. And if you go to option schemes, we've got all of the documents we've produced today. So you can see here, we've got the approval documentation. These are the board minutes and shareholder resolutions, any investor consent, the articles of association all go there. You can see we've got the valuation documentation. So the VAL 231, I mentioned this earlier. This is the lovely document that goes to HMRC. This is in their prescribed format. Don't blame me for the format, but that's all the details we've captured, and the option scheme report, which is a Word document, so that won't display. And then you can see within the grant documentation, the platform has built a couple of things. So we've got the option scheme rules that we discussed much earlier. And then we've got the option agreement, which we're just spoken about. And you can see the option agreements between my made up name here and the company name. It's not dated. Nobody's signed it yet, so it doesn't matter. I haven't got an address yet because I've not onboarded on the platform as an option holder. But you can see it's really straightforward. It's got the, you're going to get a certain number of options at the company nominal value and things like that. So it's detailing all of the specifics of the company. And again, there's the number of 5 shares form part of the options, and then being issued at £1 per share, which is the AMV. And if we scroll to the end, we then come to the really, really interesting part, which is the vesting schedule. And this schedule here dictates how the options vest and then exercise. So if we head back, the founder, you can read the document before it goes to somebody, and that is best practice. The very next step is to send an invitation. This will send an email to the option holder. I'll show you what that option email looks like. You can see here, this is the invite from Founder Catalyst. Hi, blah, 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 free account, access share option grant at Example Limited. There is a process where this person onboards.